Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Father-Son Packers podcast, your source for Packers news, notes, and analysis. My name is Tommy, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my dad, Matt. Dad, how you doing?
Doing all right. Kind of scrambling around to get everything straightened out this morning, but I think we're ready to go.
Unlike all those other mornings.
On both ends.
I was going to say, unlike all those other mornings where, everything is exactly set and perfectly laid out from the night before, all those other mornings we're totally put together. But yes, we are here today to talk to you a little bit about this past weekend's game against the Rams. Packers win 24-19, moving to 3-2 on the year. If the season ended today, they would be 7th in the NFC, so right inside of the playoff race, although it's very tight there in the middle of the NFC right now. I would say that it seems like the top of the AFC is better than the top of the NFC, but that middle tier of the NFC seems to be much more of a dogfight than the AFC, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think the NFC actually has a winning record against the AFC so far this year.
It doesn't feel right, but it's got truthiness to it. It feels.
And the NFC North has the best out of division record.
The NFC North right now. Every single team is above 500.
Yeah,
I would appreciate being in a. I guess can't complain too much because these things fluctuate, but it is what it is. But anyway, we are here today to break down everything you need to know from this game. If you like what you hear here today, subscribe. We would really appreciate it. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review. We would really appreciate it. It would help our numbers. And then check us out on Twitter, also at FatherSonPacker. We tweet out whenever we have new episodes, stats that we find when we're doing research for these episodes, content from other Packers content creators, injury reports, roster moves, etc., etc. But Dad, should we just hop on into this?
Yeah, I saw that you're making a lot of tweets yesterday about says like, oh, maybe I should steal some of your tweets for ideas.
I was going to say I need to remember to put them in the doc first and then put them on Twitter before I need to get them down in writing that they're mine for me to talk about. But anyway, this game, Dad, Packers win 24-19. They move to 3-2. Couple of news and notes before we move on to the game itself. For this game, the Packers signed cornerback Robert Rochelle to the 53-man roster, but have now since released him, so a little bit of a move there. I kind of expect him to be back on the practice squad, but I guess we will see. And then the other...
I was wondering about this, from a player's perspective. It's like, oh, you get called up. I mean, so you don't get called up, you get signed, and then you get cut. Do you end up with more money than if you just stay on the practice squad and get elevated?
Yeah,
right?
I'd imagine
you get a bigger game check, so maybe it's actually better for them.
Well,
to get signed for a couple games.
I'm guessing the game check is the same, but you get like a small signing bonus. I would imagine signing into the 53.
I don't know how it works.
Me either, but life's full of these little mysteries. But I see what you're saying. I think you would make a little more move into the 53. And then the other piece of news that we have not talked about, Dad, since the last time we recorded, we got more details on this, is the Romeo Doubs situation. If you somehow were living under a rock and not on the internet this weekend, the Romeo Doubs situation, essentially, we learned via Bill Huber of SI, he first reported it, that it's unclear, but it sounds like he was unhappy with what the game plan was going to be for this game on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, no called, no showed to practice, which just didn't tell anyone and didn't show up, to the point where they sent people to his home to make sure he was okay. Yeah, and then didn't come to practice Friday, was suspended by the team for the game. That was announced, I think, on Saturday. So it all kind of moved pretty quickly. But it sounds like, they suspended him 1 game, conduct detrimental to the team. Kind of sounds a little bit similar to what the situation with Jair last year, although this is obviously, I think, skipping practice is worse than, going out for a coin toss. But as of, Monday, per Jeremy Fowler, quote, Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs plans to attend Wednesday's practice coming out of his meeting with the team today, per source. The meeting, quote, went well, end quote, the source added, end quote. Sorry about all those. But it sounds like, the Packers are hopeful that this can be, a learning experience. They're hopeful that this can move forward. Matt LaFleur, I think, during his presser yesterday referred to it as, quote, a one-off, end quote. So, Dad, thoughts on this going forward? Thoughts on this, happening? I mean, I think it was surprising to all of us. I figured we should at least touch on it. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was kind of wild to hear as the details came out. And I was like, you always think there must be more here? Is there more here? But anyway, it sounded like they did have the meeting on Monday, and it went well as far as we know.
Went fine. It's a bit of a shame just because
it's hopefully this is just a one-time thing.
Yeah, and obviously the Packers kind of had to do this. You can't just have players feeling like they can just not show up to practice when they aren't happy with the game plan.
Even giving any information.
Yeah, and obviously I think it double stinks because it would have been, I think, awesome for Dobbs. He's from the LA area. It would have been a nice homecoming game for him. But yeah, you can't have players, just not coming to work. You can't have it. But
and I don't know if we'll ever hear Dobbs' side of the story.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see. Hopefully the Packers and Dobbs and everyone could just move forward. And we'll see moving forward. But Dad, and then one last thing before we get to actually talking about on the field stuff is the injury update. For this game, Jair Alexander didn't play, Christian Watson didn't play, and Devontae Wyatt didn't play. I think the one that's interesting there we'll talk about is what happened in the secondary with Jair out. Is that something that is a permanent fixture moving forward? Is it because Jair was missing? I guess we'll see. And then with Wyatt out, they ended up keeping Colby Wooden active. So that is, that was, I thought Wooden played pretty well, actually, and I'd be interested to see if he gets more activity moving forward.
He was the obvious candidate to take spell, and then Musgrave was active, but he didn't get any snaps.
Played, yeah. He
not
might
barely.
As well.
He didn't have a single snap. Zero.
Yeah. And they mentioned coming into the game, with that ankle injury that was like, oh, he'll play, but he's going to be limited. And it's like, oh yeah. He was limited. He was very limited.
Been break glass in case of emergency active.
Yeah, which maybe says something about how they feel about the other tight ends, on the practice squad. Maybe they just don't think Messiah Swinson is ready to be elevated for a game, or maybe they just didn't feel like they wanted to use that elevation yet. But yeah. But Dad, let's move into the actual game breakdown. Because, I think we've touched on the Dobbs situation as much as we need to. Those have been the injuries. Let's start with the game breakdown though. Like we said, Packers win 24-19. They cover that 3.5 point spread. And let's start with the biggest moment of the game, Dad, which we go by ESPN win probability added. The biggest moment of the game in this one is the Kraft first touchdown, which made it 17-13 Packers, which swung the win probability from a 56.1% chance of the Rams winning to a 63.7% chance of the Packers winning, a 19.8% swing in favor of the Packers. Dad, what a play. And follow-up question, if you had to guess the moment of the game, would it have been this one?
Yeah, unless it had been something early. You get
you do get the bigger swings earlier in the game.
Right. If you get a big play like that, pick six, maybe.
Yeah.
Could have been the other play. When you get a big swing later in the game, it usually has to be some kind of big play.
Yeah. And it kind of, I would say I would have picked this one as well. This or one of the McKinney forced turnovers, where it's just because up until they took the lead there, I was like, they're really just not, they just don't look right. And then they hit that massive play to Kraft, and it's like, okay, we're settling down. We have the lead. We can feel a little more comfortable. And then they made it tight at the end. But
you did feel like they were bogged down for a lot of the middle of the game.
Oh, yeah. They were bogged down for a lot of the beginning of the game, pretty much, unless they were hitting it was kind of the story for the whole day, was pretty much unless they were hitting a big play, they were, having a bit of trouble moving the ball. But Dad, speaking of the offense, since we're already talking about it, let's move on to the offense and let's start talking about what we liked, what we didn't like. But first, Dad, let's go to what are they saying? Any quotes from either, Packers coaches, Packers players about how they felt the offense performed in this one?
Yeah, so what LaFleur said in his Monday press conferences, every drive we had an explosive play, we scored, and every drive we didn't have an explosive play, we didn't.
Yep, that dovetails quite well.
That matches the eye test. And then he was talking about the throw to the Jaden Reed. He said about Love making that throw. Said, I don't recommend that decision, but he threw a hell of a ball. But over time, you have to be careful with that. So he said it was all one of those no, yes kind of moments.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. And his point about on offense, if we had an explosive play, we scored. If we didn't, we don't. This team is a little bit, just trying to survive on explosive plays right now on offense and defense. We're talking about the offense right now. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about it beforehand. It's this is something that the Packers have not been good success rate on the season coming in. And at least the Rams are not that good at preventing explosive plays.
Well, the Rams were good at preventing successful plays or explosive plays. The Packers should have been able to have a higher success rate in this one, although they actually did, I think, okay. But yeah, on offense, it's all let's hit a bomb, either that Reed one down the field or that Kraft run and catch or a few other ones throughout this game. And then on defense, it's all how many turnovers can we force? It is a little bit, trying to subsist on big plays, which is not super sustainable in the long run, but hopefully they can get through this stretch of their schedule with subsisting on those large plays and just those explosives, and then hopefully become, get some more consistency as the season goes on. But Dad, let's do our usual, good, bad, bad, good sandwich. Let's start with the positives. On offense, what did you like out of this game from the Packers offense?
Okay, first I would just say that Love looked like he was running a lot better in this game. That scramble for first down in the second half, he was able to run away from the defenders, and I think that's a good sign for how his knee is feeling. It was that
3rd and 12 scramble was like, he's
and also their first third down conversion.
Their only third down conversion of the game. Actually, they technically had 2 converted due to penalties, but I don't know if you want to count those.
They had not counting the penalty conversions, but he actually looked like he was moving normally, and so I think that's a good sign going forward. His knee is feeling really good. And then their second half offense overall was 4th best in the league on EPA per play for the second half on the week per RBSDM. And then I like the way they changed their play calling from the first, or their play sequencing, maybe you say, from the first half to the second half. So this is a little bit of a good and bad mix. In the first half, they ran the ball on first down only 42.9% of the time in the first quarter, and only 1 time out of 3 in the second quarter. And their points per drive of those in the first half was only 2.2 points per drive. But
and honestly, you could even say negative if you want to.
Yes.
If you want to include losing 7 points on that pick six.
6 points because they missed the
extra point.
And that points per drive would have been 13th in the league for the season. But in the second half, now in the third quarter, they ran the ball in first down on every series. So 100% of their first downs, they ran the ball. And in the fourth quarter, they ran the ball in 2/3 of their first downs. And in the second half, they now average 3.5 yards per drive, which would be second best in the league for the season.
I'm guessing you mean 3.5. I'm guessing you mean 3.5 points per drive, because 3.5 yards per drive does not sound like it would be that good.
Second best in the league. It's a very defensive league this year.
Yeah, it's a real lockdown on the defensive side. But no,
they let the defense come out there with lassos and chains.
Yeah, they're letting anything go out there.
But 3.5 points per drive, which would be second best in the league. And so when they changed the play sequencing and they ran more on first down, they had more success. And I felt like watching the game the first time, I felt like we got away from the run at the second quarter and the end of the first quarter, and we just while we were simultaneously bogging down, and that they got back to it later.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into, my big negative, which is like they just could not throw the ball on first down at all in this game, which is why I'm glad they kind of moved to maybe trying to run a little bit more. But yeah, on first down in this game, they only had a 27.3% success rate throwing it, which was 3rd worst in the league in week 5. Compare that to a 52.6% success rate on all other downs, which would have been 5th best on the week. It just really shows that they just could not throw the ball on first down. On first down, they were just 5 of 11 for 33 yards, which is 3.3 yards per attempt. Compare that to all other downs passing, which they were 10 of 15 for 190, which is 12.7 yards an attempt. They just, could not freaking throw the ball on first down at all, because, they were 5th in rushing success rate on first downs. They were 1st in dropback success rate on second downs. So they could pass on second down just fine. It's just these first downs, they could not do anything. But moving back to the positive side of the football, like you said, they were able to, I liked the play calling more in the second half. They were able to move the ball in the second half. A lot of that also had to do with, I just wanted to shout out the skill players in this game. I thought played fantastic. Josh Jacobs, some of the numbers don't look great. His yards per carry and success rate aren't amazing, but I still thought he created a lot of stuff for himself there. And there's a reason that I think PFF grades, they're just another piece of data. They're not, a final statement on how well the players played, but they had Josh Jacobs as the Packers' best offensive player in this one. He got his first. Go ahead.
They also had the run blocking as poor.
Yeah,
for almost everybody, and so he really was. From that,
I just thought he
was doing the work himself.
Yeah, I just thought he showed a lot of juice in this game. He got his first touchdown as a Packer, which is also exciting. But the little screenplay where he caught it and, just bursted upfield and stiff-armed a defensive lineman, I thought he looked really good doing that. I thought he just looked good throughout the game, and honestly, they could have given him the ball more. Was my opinion. And then just going down the list of other skill players who I thought just showed out. Tucker Kraft. I mean, 4 catches, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. Here's a fun next gen stats stat. He reached 19.7 miles per hour on that first touchdown, which is the fastest top speed by a tight end on the season. And he also leads all tight ends in yards after catch on the season, which obviously is going to happen when you rumble for 70 yards. But he's a freak. He's a beast. They need to feature him in the offense because his yards after catch, run after catch ability. You see that they're calling him Kraft Yak and Cheese.
I have not seen that.
That's a good one.
I saw that online. What is two Kraft slices? For this game.
He's really good. He's really, really good. There's a reason he's way ahead of Musgrave in the game plan right now.
Did you
even
see,
with Musgrave healthy.
Another thing about what they're saying, what Kraft had to say, I just tell myself I'm not going to get tackled by a defensive back.
Oh yeah. I thought you were going to talk about what he said on AJ Dillon's podcast. Did you see that?
No, I missed that one.
He said, like, whenever people start talking trash at me, I just start screaming at them that I'm going to burn down their childhood home. I'm like, okay, nice. I love having a psycho tight end. I love it. So he was great. And then Jaden Reed, I mean, what a bomb, what a catch on that big one. He also had several other really nice plays. They used him out of the backfield on a little Texas route once, which I really liked. That was some nice usage for him. That bomb though, per Ben Solak of ESPN, was the longest air yard completion of Jordan Love's career, 60.8 air yards.
68 air yards.
60.8. Yeah, but he it was a fantastic play by him. And just what a catch in triple coverage, am I right?
When I saw that ball go in there, it's like, oh man, I did not feel good about that ball going to that triple coverage. And it's like, wait, he caught that? That was incredible.
Reed down there somewhere. He said that after the game. He said, "F it, Reed down there somewhere." He said, "Do you see he tweeted that out?"
That's what Love said.
No, Reed tweeted that out.
Reed tweeted that. Yeah,
he said apparently
they used something about that. They used to almost call a play like that. Reed down there somewhere.
He said they used to joke about that at Michigan State. He's like, Reed down there somewhere. F it. I thought the skill players were great in this game. And then the other thing I had as a positive for the offense was just Jordan Love's, resolve. The pick was bad. The pick was really, really bad. It was honestly, it was very Will Levis-esque.
Yep, that's the standard now for that kind of play. I've heard multiple people say that.
It's a shame. It sucks for Will Levis that's kind of what his name's become attached to.
What he's best known for right now.
Yeah, hopefully he can clean it up. But yeah, that was a very Will Levis-esque pick. Although, in my brain at the time, I was like, honestly, if we get a safety and kick it away, we're probably losing 9 points.
I have this in my things that made us think, which I can talk about now. Yeah, so the pick six by Love may have been an accidental big brain move.
Yeah,
if Love had taken the safety, would have been worse. Packers ended the half with a net -3 after the
because they drove down immediately and scored a field goal.
They got the ball and they got a field goal, and instead, if it was a safety, it would have been 2 points. Rams would have got the ball, and I found some old data that on average starting position of 40, and they have like a 45% chance of getting a field goal and a 25% chance of getting a touchdown from that field position.
Yeah,
although from 2022 from Nick Martin.
Yeah, but the field position on safeties are different now because they do the kick as opposed to the punt. Because they don't do the regular safety punt, so it kind of nerfed the field position on a safety a little bit.
Yeah, so it's
just to agree with you though, I fully believe they would have scored a touchdown on us if we had punted.
Even if they just got a field goal, it would have eaten up the clock, and they would have gotten the field goal, and then it would have been a net
-5,
net 5 instead of net 3.
It's all part of the plan.
64-dimensional chess.
Yeah, I love it when a plan comes together. Any other positives on the offensive side of the football, though, Dad, or should we talk about a couple negatives we had there?
I think we can talk about a couple negatives now.
Okay, what did you have?
So for me, the first and third down yards on the week out of going to Monday Night 2016 so far, they were 22nd in yards per play on first down and 25th in yards per play on third down. Mm-hmm. They were second in yards per play on second down. I should have that in my positives. They're good on second down, but bad on first and third. In pass protection, they gave up the 5th fastest time to pressure on the week, and on the season, they're only 24th fastest. So they're one of the top 10 teams in
Zach Tom had
time to pressure.
Zach Tom had a tough game in this one. He struggled with Verse a little bit. I think that's like one of the worst games I've seen him play, especially this season. It's been the worst game he's played. I'm not
PFF
too worried about it, but
credited with giving up a sack and 3 other pressures.
3 or 4, I can't remember exactly.
He had a total of 4.
He struggled in this one. Rasheed Walker had a good game, but the right side of the line really struggled. Ryan and Myers, Ryan, and Tom all had tough days out there.
Yeah, Myers run blocking. He was last going into last among 29 centers in run blocking grade per PFF.
Yeah, he struggled in this game, and Ryan struggled in this game, and hopefully it's just a one-off and they can fix it going forward. But that was tough.
And then the fact that they could only take 33 seconds off the clock before giving the ball back in the fourth quarter to the Rams to give the Rams a chance to take the lead. Yeah, that was really ugly.
30 seconds and all the timeouts, to be fair, but not ideal. Not ideal there. You'd hope they'd be able to, and they'll drop. Yeah,
it kind of fell apart when that pass attempt to, I think it was Heath, got deflected at the line. And so there was on the RPO.
It's because they passed on first down. That's why. Because they
ran
not
on first
pass
down. First they ran a first down, got another first, and I'm like, was that the best thing to get the first right away? Instead of
should you have fallen down second and short?
Should you have taken a couple
yards?
of downs to get that first and make them use more timeouts? And then they went for the pass to the RPO, got deflected, so stopped the clock, and just kept stopping the clock.
Yeah, and that they should have just kept running it, but the RPO was right there. Like that was another first down if they hadn't gotten swatted at the line. But you know what the old football coaches will say when you pass the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. Is what people will say, which is a silly quote, but it is a silly quote. It's fun.
That's the fallacy of if there are 3 things, they all have equal probability.
Exactly. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. For me, negatives were the mistakes. We already talked about, the pick 6 was a big oof. But 3 false starts, 2 drops, and 1 kind of drop. They need Wicks to get out of his head. He's really in his head right now.
Yeah.
And hopefully he can fix that, but that's a bit of a struggle for him. And then the other negative I had was just, third downs were really rough in this game. They were 1 of 8 on third down. Like we mentioned, they did have 2 others that were converted due to penalty. But the big reason for that was, like we mentioned before, they couldn't pass on first down. That was like the biggest negative. They could not pass on first down at all. And we already gave you all those numbers. Only 3.3 yards an attempt compared to 12.7 every other time. Very like bottom of the league success rate on first down passing the ball when they were successful doing pretty much anything else. They just need to use Jacobs more. For some reason, they're like hesitant to give him the ball. After giving him like 30 versus the Colts, they're like trying to like add it up so that the total number of carries is still the same as it would have been. And they're like, okay, we have to like rest him these next 2 days because he had 33 weeks ago. And, the big thing on third downs was the reason they were 1 of 8 was they had an average of 10.7 yards to go on third downs, which is just remarkable. Here are some of their third down distances. They had, some of 2, some of 4, but then 12, 14, 26, 12, 15, and 10. They just had a mile to go on every single one of these
first
third downs.
And second down. Well, that's not quite true because they had some that didn't lead to third downs, but losing yardage.
Yeah, on a lot of first and second downs, not ideal. And some of that's penalties, some of that's, passing for nothing on first down, but not ideal. Dad, any other negatives on the offensive side of the football, or should we move over to defense, though?
I had one more. Well, we talked about a little bit again already, the things that made us think about the big plays and versus the sustained drives. And, how it worked against the Rams, but will this work against other teams?
Yeah, a lot of big plays, coming into this game, the Packers had the highest explosive pass rate in the league, and the Rams had the highest explosive pass rate allowed. So it kind of played into that, but you're not going to be able to just, survive on a few 50-yard bombs a game against really good teams. So hopefully they can become a bit more consistent moving forward. They can lean on the run game a little bit more because I still think they're getting away from it when they don't need to. But let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. And what are Packers coaches, Packers players saying about this one? What are they saying?
So LaFleur on the struggling pass rush says a lot of times we're getting chipped on the edges. That's today's football. So you got to find ways to try to get around that. And then he complimented Cooper, saying Cooper has a way of wrapping around with those stunts and gets there in a hurry.
Yeah, he's a fantastic blitzer, Cooper is. But they're still not rushing the passer great. This was definitely an improvement in this one. They made some strides. This was like their highest pressure rate that they've had in a game, even including that Will Levis game where they had 8 sacks. It's the highest rate at which they've pressured the quarterback. It's also their lowest time to pressure in a game. but it's still like just around league average. Like they still need to get a lot better if they want to, end up where they, want to be, where they're, competing at the end of the year in the playoffs. They need to have this pass rush take a step, and hopefully they can figure some things out, but it did improve this week at least. But Dad, let's start with some negatives on defense. I've got one for you. And it was that, like we mentioned earlier, they are really subsisting on big plays like they are on offense, on defense as well. The Rams just move the ball at will. Overall, the Packers were the worst team in the league by success rate before Monday Night Football in Week 5 per RBSDM. A 54.5% success rate allowed, which was, like we said, the worst in the league. A 51% dropback success rate allowed, which was 6th worst, and a 60.7% rushing success rate. They were successful on almost 61% of their runs. That is the 4th highest rate allowed in any game this year, any single game. This was the 4th worst any team has done by success rate on the ground. So pretty much any time they gave it to Kyren Williams, they were just getting the yards they needed. They were able to stay ahead of the sticks whenever they wanted. They were able to convert any 3rd or 4th and short that they wanted on the day. Anytime they got to 3rd and 4th and short, it was like, okay, they're going to give it to Kyren Williams. They're going to get 4 yards, and that there's just no way we can stop them. It didn't even matter how many people we had hitting them in the backfield, because I felt like we were actually making contact in the backfield, and we just never ever brought Kyren Williams down. He was always falling forward for another 3 or 4 yards. And so that was really frustrating, just the ability at which they were able to just, move the ball. I'm a bit wary of how reliant we are on turnovers. I think that that's not a sustainable method. Obviously, you like to be able to take the ball away, but when you look at this team, if you factor in turnovers, they're 11th in EPA per play allowed on the league on the season. And if you take turnovers out, they're 20th, which is actually very similar to how they were last year without turnovers. So really the main difference is if you take away turnovers, they ranked 20th in EPA per play in the league last year. If you take away turnovers, they ranked 20th in EPA per play in the league so far this year. And the main difference is this year we're riding really high on turnover variance, so we're up to 11th. And last year we were riding really low, so we were down to like 28th. But if you actually look at the down-to-down stuff, the defense is really mostly just hanging on by a thread on these big plays. And, obviously you'd rather have them than not have them, but the question is it sustainable?
You're right. That's the worry, is that it's variance and it won't be sustainable. Hopefully it's sustainable. We get,
McKinney
has 17
turnovers,
17 picks,
yeah.
17 picks on the year for McKinney.
Exactly. He's kind of putting the defense on his back right now, because without those 2 turnovers in the second half, and obviously we got them, so I'm going to be really happy about them. But if they didn't have those, the Rams were not being stopped so far in that game.
Yeah, not until the very last drive, really.
Yeah. At least, and that was a good thing, because I was mentioning to you, I was like, I don't remember a 2-minute drive that the Packers have actually gotten a stop on before. Like every single other one, it feels like they're just trying to bleed the clock and they're holding on for dear life, and you're just white knuckling it the whole way. They actually were a bit, they were the aggressor a bit on that last drive, which I like to see. But Dad, did you have anything, any things that you thought the defense needs to improve on? Yeah, what do you think?
So he talked about it, or just kind of the success rate. Had trouble getting off the field. They gave up the 3rd most offensive plays per game on the week.
Yeah.
And the Rams won the time of possession, just like they had like 34 minutes or something to the Packers 26. I don't have the exact number.
It felt worse. No. It felt like they had the ball more than that, didn't it?
Yeah, because they kept running ball. And
well, part of that is you get a double up on possessions with a pick 6. So you get another possession there. So at some rate, you are going to make some of that back on the time of possession. Time of possession is also a fluky stat, in my opinion, because like you're essentially getting penalized for scoring quickly. It's like, oh, it looks really bad. My time of possession is only 20 seconds. Like, yeah, you hit like a 70-yard pass for a touchdown. I'm not going to apologize for that. But no, they need to find a way to get off the field better. They need to find a way to have more down-to-down success. Like we mentioned, the success rate was awful in this game. The Rams just moved the ball as much as they wanted, and it was tough in this one. But there were some positives, but some negatives. But yeah.
So to be precise, it was 32-41, 32 minutes and 41 seconds, not 34. So just to get the exact number out there. But it did feel like we had trouble tackling again. Mm-hmm. Especially, but Williams is good, man. We had times where we barely laid a mid on him when we almost had him in the backfield.
Oh, we're gonna have a long conversation about what happened in the secondary in this game. Not in a negative way. The way I said it sounded really ominous. I just realized, but no, we're gonna have a long conversation about what happened in the secondary. But no,
say that with like a Walter White.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at your face,
Heisenberg, please.
Heisenberg.
But no, yeah, go ahead.
But then I have other things too. Like they were 9th worst in the EPA per rush in the week. The run success rate given up on third and fourth down was fourth worst on the week. The success rate of 88.9% on third and fourth down for the Rams. And as mentioned before, letting the Rams go 91 yards for a touchdown in just 2 minutes and 32 seconds.
They just let him walk it down the field on that last, second to last one.
5. So they still were 3.5 minutes left on the clock because they were able to score so quickly on that one.
I mean, the Rams offense never, they got stopped with picks and turnovers, but besides that last drive of the game and then one or two others in the first half, the Rams were just cooking on offense almost the whole game.
Yeah, and Stokes in particular had a bad game. He was slipping and falling in some of them. He gave up 133.8 passer rating against as the nearest defender per NFL Pro. It was the 16th worst in the league.
Yeah, he's struggled the last couple of games.
Yeah, they credit him with 7 catches given up and 9 targets for 65 yards and a TD. I know one of those plays he kind of slipped and fell down, but other ones
he was slipping and falling a few times. I don't think that's I'm not writing off the slipping and falling because I think that's part of what he's not good at, which is changing directions quickly. And so I don't think we can just write off the slipping as kind of noisy things those things happen. I think it more has to do with, that's a deficiency of his, as he's not able to turn fast enough to keep up with some of these receivers who are more agile. And, he has size, he has speed, but he just needs to work on sticking with these guys.
Yep. So we're missing Jair. I think we could talk about let's defensive secondary alignment maybe a little bit later, but should we go on to the good things?
I mean, let's go on to the good things, and let's just start with what you were talking about then. The secondary got a big shakeup in this game, and I think it was for the positive. And I think we're going to talk about it in just a sec, but I think it really shows well on Jeff Hafley that he was willing to make some personnel changes to get his best 11 players on the field. He wasn't just this is what we do. These players are in these spots, etc. They made some really stark changes in this game. And what happened was Evan Williams, after not playing more than 50% of snaps in any game so far this year through 4 weeks, he was a part-time player. The Packers, remember, traded up for him in the 4th round, safety out of Oregon. He's a rookie. They really liked him. Apparently, a lot of teams really liked him. If you, Jim Nagy via the Senior Bowl tweeted that out during the draft, if you saw that. And he had a really good camp. He had a really good preseason. And a lot of people were clamoring for him to just play more. And finally, in this game, he comes in, and he's your new starting safety next to Xavier McKinney in this game. He plays 100% of snaps, a vast majority of them as the starting free safety next to McKinney. Meanwhile, Bullard, who had been your starting deep safety, plays no snaps of deep safety in this game. Absolutely zero. But they have to keep him on the field because he has been playing really well as well. It's not like he's been bad at safety. This is more about getting Williams on the field. So Bullard, meanwhile, moves down to the slot. After playing just 27 total slot snaps through weeks 1 to 4, these numbers are per PFF, by the way, he plays 42 of his 57 snaps in the slot. So he plays far more than 50% of his snaps in the slot. And then you might be wondering, okay, what happens with Nixon? Well, he actually moved to outside corner, which is really interesting. He still played 100% of snaps. He did not miss a single snap on defense, but 52 of 78 snaps were at outside corner. Now, my question, Dad, is number one, how much of this shakeup do we think we'll see going forward? Is this? I think Evan Williams played fantastic. By the way, he had the pass breakup on the game-winning play.
Oh yeah,
he had
another pass
defense.
That particular play because he made such a good tight coverage and timing it to knock the ball at the catch point. Critical play.
Yeah, and then he had another pass defensed in the end zone. And so my question, Dad, is obviously I think this was a real positive. I hope they keep doing this going forward because it's what we've been calling for is Williams and McKinney deep and Bullard more in the slot. My question is, how much of that has to do with Jair not playing? So would they have done any? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 options. If Jair was playing, would they have done none of this shakeup? So still Bullard and McKinney deep and still Keyshawn in the slot and still Stokes and Jair wide. Would they have done none of it? Would they have done some of it? Still bringing Evan Williams in with Williams and McKinney deep, Bullard in the slot, but then Jair outside and just Nixon kind of situationally? Or would they have done just all of it and no Stokes outside with Nixon and Jair outside, Bullard in the slot, Evan Williams and McKinney? I guess my thought is, what do you think they're going to do next week if Jair is back?
I don't think they'll. I think they'll do like maybe 10% of this.
I hope it's more than that. That would be so disappointing. They looked so much better, I think, on the back end in this game. Although, obviously some of the numbers are not as good. But I just thought they looked way better.
I don't have
a
whole lot of confidence that they're going to just lead into this completely.
And clearly, I don't think my big takeaway from Nixon playing 100% of the snaps is I don't think they're going to go to a Bullard in the slot, Nixon on the bench if they're still trying to get Nixon on 100% of snaps. Like, I don't think Jair, I think ideally in my ideal world, Jair comes back and Nixon's a part-time player and Bullard's in the slot full-time, and it's Jair and Stokes on the outside or Jair and Valentine on the outside, whichever one, with McKinney and Williams deep. That's what I would like to see. But I think given the fact that they still played Nixon 100% of snaps, I don't think we're going to see that.
That's why I don't have a lot of confidence now because, they did take Nixon off the field.
Yeah, that's why I think the next best thing and what I think could realistically see, and so what I'm hoping for is Nixon and Jair at outside corner, because Nixon's not a very good outside corner, but he's a versatile player. He can tackle well. I don't think Nixon's a negative out there on the field. I just think slot corner is really hard to play, so his passer rating is going to look is going to look way worse than some of these other corners. If they wanted to go to a Nixon and Jair outside with Bullard in the slot more and Williams and McKinney deep, I think that's like maybe a compromise we can all reach. Hafley, please keep playing Williams. He played amazing. But yeah, so I just hope we see this going forward because I thought it was a real big positive. And once again, I want to say shout out to Hafley for making that adjustment.
Yeah, for me, I have a shout out another rookie, Edgerrin Cooper.
He's fun. He's
so
his fun.
Highest snap count of the year with 30. Had 2 pressures, only 5 pass rush snaps, including a solo sack, which was an incredible play where he doesn't let Stafford tries to get around him and he just grabs a piece of jersey.
His hands are so strong. Yeah,
he just grabs that piece of jersey and does not let go, even though he's got like his full momentum and Stafford trying to go away in the other direction and pulls him down one-handed. And he had the 7th highest pressure percentage for linebackers on the week. Mm-hmm. He also had 3 solo tackles and an assist with no missed tackles. And he also got a pressure on that last pass breakup that, coming in on Stafford as he's making the throw that Evan Williams ends up breaking up.
Yeah, I mean, it was the way he was used was really awesome too. Like, I love using him as a blitzer. They just have to play him more. He needs to be. Yeah. Him and Evan Williams need to be on the field more than 50% of snaps, and honestly, probably more than 70% of snaps, because I think someone else pointed this out. It's like, yeah, he's gonna have rookie mistakes, but are we just pretending that no one else is making mistakes? Like, all these other guys are making mistakes too. Like, it's not like everyone else is flawlessly in their spots and in their gaps on every single play. Like, yeah, Cooper will make mistakes, but at least he'll also give you some really high level plays while he's at it.
Yeah, and he also got the 4th highest graded linebacker in coverage. He had 18 coverage snaps, gave up, I think, 1 completion on 1 target for 7 yards.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason you took him at 45. Just live with some of the mistakes and just he plays well. He's good when he's out there. But yeah, he was great. Any other positive stat? I already talked about a little bit. The pass rush improved. It was the highest pressure rate and lowest time to pressure that they've had through 5 games per NFL Pro. Both were in the top 10 metrics heading into Monday night. And then I talked about, I like that Hafley was able to mix those things up. He also, I thought Hafley had some really well-timed blitzes. They were actually only 16th in the league in blitz rate this week. They didn't actually blitz that much, but you could really feel the effect of the blitzes they had. They also went to more 5-down fronts, which I like to see because they were not winning with a 4-man front once again, which is a different kind of, we'll worry about that later. It's still not good. They need to improve. But Dad, any other positives on defense?
Well, so I'll shout out a couple of those D linemen anyway. Slayton had a good game. He had the highest defensive grade on the team with an elite 89.3. He had a hit and a hurry, as well as 3 tackles, including a stop. So he's actually getting in the backfield a little bit. It was not rapid, but he's sometimes like the only guy chasing after Stafford on some of those plays. He was 11th of 49 defensive tackles with a 20% win rate on the week. And which led the Packers. And then Carl Brooks led the team with 2 sacks. I guess one of them shared, and led the team in pressures with 4.
Yeah, I do want to say for the pressure thing, it depends where you look. So a lot of people are retweeting the stats like, oh, Rashawn Gary has 0 pressures in 3 of his last 4 games. But I will say, yes, PFF had him with 0 pressures in this game. But if you go to NFL Pro, And the way they define a pressure is via the chips in the shoulder pads. It's via next-gen stats. If at any point during the rush, a player is within 1.5 yards of the quarterback, that counts as a pressure. Or if they're within 2 yards of the quarterback when the quarterback is throwing, it's a pressure. And via NFL Pro, Rashawn Gary actually had 3 pressures and led the team. So I just want to note that. It's not like Rashawn Gary, a lot of people are like, oh, PFF had him 0 pressures. He's a 0 pressures in all these games. NFL Pro thought he was more impactful in this game than that, and he was getting chipped a lot. I actually thought Gary probably had his best game of the season so far, which is still a little disappointing just given the fact that, you expect so much more of him. But I thought Gary still had an okay game, but they obviously need more from him. It was still not good enough.
You'd like to see him wrecking shop a little bit more.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out because a lot of people are talking about how it's like, oh, it's 0 pressures in this game. It's like, well, it depends who you ask, because some sites have him with 3. So
right. So on PFF, they had Brooks with 4 pressures, and NFL Pro, they had him tied for the team lead with Gary with 3.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But like you mentioned, though, I thought Carl Brooks had an awesome game as well. He should play more.
But like the run defense, don't look at those. If you're looking for positives, don't worry about those run defense grades.
Yeah. But Dad, anything else on defense? Let's move to special teams. I think we've had enough.
Well, just
defense.
things to make you think is like, we already talked about what the secondary lineup will be going forward, and that was one thing I wanted to mention too. The other thing is Cooper going to keep creeping up in snap counts?
Most snaps so
far. I would
far
like to get him up there to the second highest snap percentage for linebackers at least.
Why stop there? I was going to say, let's get all the way to first.
I'm going for, what I think is more likely rather than what is my Christmas wish list.
Fair enough. But all right, special teams, Dad, let's close things out. I get to finally say something different. Narveson went 4 of 4 on kicks on the day, 3 of 3 on extra points, and made his first kick, which was from 46 yards. It was his first kick of the day. And honestly, there was a lot of pressure on that kick, if you're really thinking about it, because if he misses that one, that's probably it, right?
He's like kicking for his job.
He might have been kicking for his job, might have been kicking for his career in a lot of ways. And so I think with all the pressure on that kick, it was nice to see him make that one. Hopefully, this is a sign that he can continue to grow moving forward. And he's going to need to make a lot more before I feel super confident in him kicking. And, maybe that will take a long, long time, but hopefully he can, take this as a building block and build on it moving forward.
Maybe the footwork they talked about, did the job, or maybe thank you, reverse jinx.
Maybe. But this one, he was kicking from the right hash. And so he was able to, kick it a little to the left and bring it back. I want to see him make one from the left hash as well, so that he's not starting it out to the right and just letting it fade because he kept missing to the right. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be a growth moment moving forward. Our punter, though, did not have as good of a day, which, I guess I'll make that trade. But yeah, Whelan struggled in this game a little bit.
Yeah, I had him, with his worst game of the year, maybe. Only one of five punts were inside the 20. An average punt distance of 37.2 yards, which is second worst behind the Philadelphia game, and the second lowest average for a game in his career. And that last punt of only 28 yards to get to the Rams 29.
Not great.
They're trying to, make him go. The previous punt was good, got him down to the 9. But that last one, when they're kicking from, they're like own 43 or something.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kick it further than that. You got to pin him there. It was not a good punt.
Even if you just boom it all the way to the end zone, it's still better than that.
Exactly. You just can't. Yeah, you
give
can't
a
have
touchback.
that there.
It's better than that.
Yeah. But yeah, so special teams, and the other stuff they're doing okay. They've only had one kick return on the year that honestly they shouldn't have even returned. So, the kick return stuff
return is just, it just doesn't exist.
There's more touchbacks than there ever have been, I feel like. It's because teams will never take it out of the end zone now. Never ever take it out of the end zone.
Yeah, because the few teams that do, their average is worse than the touchback. It's like
it's much 28. Worse than the touchback. Yeah. But anyway, let's close things out here, Dad. Player of the game, who'd you have?
I took a Kraft.
I had Xavier McKinney because I called dibs. And
you called dibs, so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to grab Kraft. Though you did, get Kraft into your good things notes before I could.
Yes, exactly.
I guess the dibs only applied to player of the game. I didn't expand it. So I only called dibs on Kraft for the player of the game, and I should have called it for the entire
dibs.
podcast.
Exactly. But no, yeah, I think these were also the 2 players that got game balls after the game from Matt LaFleur, one on offense, one on defense. They don't win this game without the 2 Kraft touchdowns. They don't win this game without the 2 forced turnovers by McKinney. Good complimentary football all the way around from both those guys. And McKinney, a pick in 5 straight games. I mean, wow.
Is the first player on any team to get a pick on their first 5 games since the merger.
Something like that. It's a weird convoluted stat,
1970?
but something like that. But
That's you get to those like it almost sounds like a baseball stat. It's like,
it does
in a night game,
day
on a
games,
Sunday,
yeah, exactly. When it's raining and it's
on the road, on the road
past October 3rd. No, yeah, exactly.
In a dome.
But anyway, anything else you wanted to say there, Dad, or should we close things out here?
I'm just happy we're 3-2 and currently in a playoff slot.
Yep. But anyway, this has been the Father Son Packers podcast. Packers beat the Rams, moving to 3-2. If you like what you heard here today, subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Leave a comment, leave a review. We would really appreciate it. Then follow us on Twitter at FatherSonPacker. Tweet out, whenever we have new episodes, stats we find, roster moves, injury reports, content from other Packers content creators. Give us a follow. We'd really appreciate it. We'll be talking to you later this week, previewing the Packers' upcoming game against the Cardinals. So check that out. Keep an eye on the feed. So thank you again so much for listening. 3-2, above 500. You love to see it. And until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.